So I didn't plan to make a speech out of this, but really what I wanted to do with you was to share with you some ideas, and that may lead to a further kind of discussion. So I'll ask a few questions, and then I will, maybe depending on the responses that I get, and I will share my thoughts and ideas about this. So the issue that we are talking about when it comes to free education, whose benefit, that is the thought-provoking question that we pose to everybody. But we are all talking in a global context, and I'm drawing in a lot of experience. From the times that I have spent abroad doing postgraduate studies, the times that I've spent in this faculty, talking with my own colleagues on what their aspirations for their life are, then doing fellowships in places like US, and then also my Commonwealth work. Yeah, now I go everywhere virtually, and then and so on. So a lot of personal experience I'm bringing into this. Now, we're talking about brain drain, and we're talking about migration. Right? So the first question that I would like to ask from you is, how many of you consider yourself a migrant? Anyone? Are you a migrant? You may have lived all your life in Jaffna up to your A-levels, and then you have migrated to Colombo now. Are you thinking of going back to Jaffna? You may have come from, let's say, Ampara. Now you are a migrant in Colombo. Are you thinking of going back to Ampara? You may have come from Ampara, you may have come from another place, Nagala or somewhere. Are you thinking of going back? And worse still, you may have come on the district list. The district had an expectation that you will come and serve the district. So you don't have to start talking about people going and leaving the country, but the very fact that people migrate internally in the country, but then they don't go back to serve those communities from where they came from, is also a serious problem. And that is why, even though after 50 years or 75 years now of independence, longer than that of free education, we still have areas in our country which are not developed. The people who come from those areas and obtain those free education don't go back and develop those areas. So those who are benefiting from free education system, who are also expected to contribute to that system, are not doing that contribution. So a few years ago, I was invited to a meeting at UTC where the case for the establishing a medical school in Uvavellas University was being made. So the former Minister of Health, Silva, was there, and he was saying, we don't have doctors in the rural hospitals. So by establishing a medical school in Uvavellas, we will be able to create doctors for the rural hospitals. So I had to tell him, sir, if your expectation is that will not happen by just starting a medical school in poor wellness areas. So the problem that we are discussing about in terms of brain drain is not just people leaving this country and going abroad, but internal brain drain that has been happening for decades now, where the rural places are becoming intellectual deserts. People are coming to cities. They are then not going back and serving their communities. And that is, to me, the most serious problem in this country. As a result of that, we have our underprivileged areas being underprivileged, and they will never get out of that poverty cycle that they are in. Have you ever given thought to that? So if I were to, I don't want to put you on the spot and saying how many of you have come from Anuradhapura, how many of you are thinking of going back and serving Anuradhapura. But that is a serious ethical problem that you need to discuss and deal with. Because after all, there are a lot of students who came on the district quota with the expectation that they will go back and serve the community. But there is nothing binding them to do that. In fact, we have people who were in Royal College and other places who, I had classmates, I was at Royal as you know, and I had classmates who were in grade 7, 8, 9 who left at that time and went to Monaragala and did A-level from Monaragala and came at lower cut-off marks. Whereas my own classmates who were in the faculty, in Royal, were unable to get to medical school. Now that is to me, the biggest, level of hypocrisy, as it were, where we are not serving our, communities. So the internal brain drain has been going on. It has been a worse phenomena than we ever talk about. Nobody talks about it because it has other connotations. So therefore, that is the first dialogue that we have to start. What is our obligation to go back to our villages, to go back to our districts and serve those districts and villages? That's a very, very important discussion that all of us need to have. The second discussion is a more wider context, the global phenomena of migration. Now, why do people migrate? Why do people migrate? Why do they want to go to somewhere else? There may be lots of reasons. One reason may be that you may not have a sense of belonging to where you are. To me, for me, it was very difficult ever in my life, even now or even in the future, to make a decision to leave this country. Because I have a very, very strongly rooted sense of belonging. I had 29 first cousins in my family, for 29 first cousins, because I had more than a dozen aunts and uncles. Of those 29 first cousins, majority out of this country. But for me, I've never had wanted to make that decision to leave, or never even thought about it, because I had a certain sense of belonging and a sense of also duty and service to the country. So therefore, I always wanted to be in this country, but I always say, you know, I like rice and curry more than anything else, and to eat rice and curry, I don't need $80. You know, my favorite food was rice and palsambol and karavala. Before I became a vegetarian, therefore I had to drop karavala. But that kind of sense of belonging, you know, you have. So therefore, I never thought of going out. But why do people migrate? So, well, if I ask a lot of people who are migrating now, their answer is they are not doing it for themselves. They are saying it is for their children's future. If you ask most of them, right? They are not doing that. Now, what is the children's future? Children's future in terms of economic prosperity, which is going to happen in another 20 or 30 years' time. Where is that economic prosperity of the world going to be in another 20 or 30 years' time? Now that is the question that you need to ask yourself. So in 2016, I was invited by SLIT, you know, SLIT, to give the convocation address for their students. I knew SLIT was an organization where, you know, everybody wants to leave the country. That's all. So I wanted to defy their theory of leaving the country. There is, if you Google, just Google these words, the map of economic gravity of the world, and you will get a nice map. This is a map made by an international organization called McKinsey, which is a global financial think tank. They show nicely, based on data gathered from the entire world, what has happened to the economic center of the world. 2000 years ago, where was the most prosperous place on earth? This is not me saying, this is McKinsey saying. On top of South Asia, on top of us. This was the most prosperous place in the world, on earth. About the year 400 years ago, this started, the economic prosperity started going towards the west. It went on, but it didn't go all the way. We know that the most prosperous place is in the US in terms of real value, dollar value, but it didn't go all the way. But it has now started coming back. So by the years 2040, 2050, the economic center of gravity of the world after 2000 years is going to be back again on top of South Asia. What are the indicators that are telling us that the economic gravity of the world is going to be on top of South Asia? You look at India. India, 75 years ago, when it gained independence, was like almost Sri Lanka's level or poorer than Sri Lanka. It became a $1 billion economy in the year about 62 years after it gained independence. It became a $2 billion economy by 70 years, and it became 75 years this time, last year. And by that time, it became a $3 billion industry, dollar economy. It is now the 5th largest economy in the world, and in a few years' time, it'll, either be second or third. It could be US, China, India. So it's not just India, but China. But you put the rest of the wealth of the South Asia into that pocket. The economic powerhouse of the world is going to be here. So those who are making decisions for their children, they are making the wrong decision. By another 40 years, they are going to go and put their children in a not so wealthy place. The wealth of the world is going to be here. And if we get a trickle of what India is going to make in terms of economy, we will be a prosperous nation, even if our government doesn't do anything, because that trickle will come down. So that is the economic argument. So I made this presentation in 2016 to SLIT, and I gave the conversation address with a lot of other details, and then some of the professors came up to me and said, "You are brave, you defied our students." So the economic argument does not stand. So if you are thinking of prosperity when you all are 40, 50 years old, you are thinking of creating prosperity for your children, that's not going to happen. Then the next thing is, why do countries now, if you look at our country, we are a closed country. No Suddha can come and practice here, medicine. They can't even, become a nurse or a physiotherapist or anything. We are a closed country. But why is US, UK, Europe, other countries promoting migration? Why are they doing that? Have you ever thought why? Who is the Prime Minister of UK or England or UK? Rishi Sunak. Who is the Prime Minister of Scotland or First Minister of Scotland? Find the name. Everybody has heard of Barack Obama. Right? Who is Vivek Ramaswamy? Anyone knows Vivek Ramaswamy? Nobody knows. Vivek Ramaswamy may be the next president of USA. Google Vivek Ramaswamy. Listen to his speeches on YouTube. I am these days listening to Vivek Ramaswamy. He is fantastic. He might be the next president of US. What's common about these people? What's common about these people? They are second generation immigrants, not first generation immigrants. They are second generation immigrants. So if you look at immigration of second generation migrants, right? So their parents came, and these are the second generation. There's a theory in migration that those who come to some country from far away want to succeed in life. When they come, they work harder than anyone. So if you read the life stories of their parents, you will find these people have killed themselves. So if I told you more than half my 29 cousins are living abroad, I know how hard when they went there, they worked. They killed themselves. Then what happens? They create a second generation of children who are well educated, very powerful, and so on. And that's what has happened. So these people whose names that we just described, they are the next driving force. And the third generation of theirs, well, they will become ordinary citizens of the country. So go and look at Barack Obama's children and all. They are ordinary citizens of the country. They are not up to the father's level or anything like that. So if you promote migration, you will have people who will come to the country, kill themselves, work 20 hours a day. They will want to create prosperity for themselves. The next generation will work and create prosperity, and then after that others will just. So this is a theory that of migration. So by promoting these people coming in, then what happens? You get people who are really ready and ready to work. You have seen Dubai, you have seen Doha, you have seen all these Middle East countries. Did the Arabs build them? No. Those were built by the sweat and blood of our people, who went there and who were killing themselves to construct all these, build all these. The Arabs don't work, they're just there. So, by promoting migration, all these countries are creating prosperity for those countries. That is the theory behind it. And you create more and more opportunities for people to come, then their countries will prosper. What is the other biological theory behind that also? Those who want to go and take the chance are the fittest in terms of biology. They are the people who take risks. They are the people who have the thinking power. They are the people who will, have the drive to do things. So they are biologically fitter than the fellows who are just sitting over there somewhere and, begging. So in 2002, I think I was in the UK doing my PhD, and the UK government gave 1,000 scholarships to Chinese. And I was listening to the parliamentary debate on that in BBC. You know what one of the ministers said? He said, what a fantastic thing. They are going to not only come and work here, but they are going to, the top brains of China are going to come here and add to our gene pool. You know what they meant? They will marry and they will add to the gene pool. Will we ever say that? The Chinese will come and marry Sri Lankans and add to our gene pool, and our gene pool will expand. Will we ever say that? I mean, if one of our ministers say that, next day he'll be, what will happen to him on social media. So these are the theories that these people expound, and they are creating a value for themselves. So what have we done? We have closed up. We have closed people with knowledge coming into the country. We are not looking at any of those things. But what are we doing? We are sending the best of ours out of the country. Those people create wealth for those countries, create new knowledge, patents, innovations, commercialization, and we are the consumers. We remain the consumers. So that is what the cycle of poverty that we have created for ourselves. So we need to start thinking about this a lot. We need to start a new dialogue in this country of what is our duty and service to the country. Nobody talks about it. So, for example, we say that now if you look at our own statistics and the statistics of the medical councils of other countries, in the past 2 years, we had more than 900 doctors and specialists going to Australia. Last 2 years alone. If you look at the GMC data, there are more than 1,000 doctors with Sri Lankan qualifications, first degrees, working in the National Health Service, not the GMC data, NHS data, with the National Health Service. US, I don't know the numbers. But how many doctors do you think went to US last year from the entire world? More than 30,000. Doctors, not like, going to 200, 300 coming back to Sri Lanka after doing medical degrees abroad. 30,000. That's the number that went from the entire world to US. Why are they taking them? In addition to the reasons that I mentioned earlier. That's the greater migration theory, if you want to call it. Because it's cheap to get people who have been trained by other people and give them the jobs after validating that they can do a job, rather than train them. So Sri Lankan taxpayers have given free education from the beginning, produce a doctor, and we haven't bonded the doctor. The doctor can now go to US or anywhere. And we in the Sri Lanka Medical Council last year spent about 80 million rupees and got WFMA accreditation, making it more possible for the doctors in Sri Lanka to leave now. So we have created the ideal mellow for people to leave. In addition, we give education in English, making it even more easier to live. In January, we had a workshop organized by the WHO on health financing in Sri Lanka, at the Kingsbury, which was organized by WHO and the Ministry of Health, and I was there at the concluding session. And at that time, I asked the panelists who were there, what is the remedy to prevent doctors from leaving the country or healthcare workers from leaving the country? Well, one of the panelists who were there was from Thailand. He said, well, the problem that you are having is a uniquely Commonwealth problem. You have educated people in English and given them a passport to leave. When in Thailand in the 1990s, a similar economic crisis occurred. What happened? When a similar economic crisis occurred, nobody left. In fact, what happened was, doctors who were working in the private sector came back to government sector because the private sector, there were no patients. Or the numbers of patients went down in the private sector. Even if you look at it now in our private sector, we see that numbers of patients are going down in the private sector. If you go to NHSL, there are more patients than before. Not only NHSL, there are all other hospitals. So in Thailand, that is what happened. Nobody left, but there was internally, more people came back to the government service. Now, we don't have to be, I always say I'm a optimistic person. I don't take no for an answer. and I'm always optimistic. I relate this story, and I'll maybe make this the last story so that you can ask me some questions. In 2012, I was the president of the Sri Lanka Medical Association. So I was one of the youngest people. So Prof. Sarojisi and all that, and you all won't know me. There is, you all won't know this person that I'm mentioning. There was a very senior clinician in Colombo. His name was Dr. Dennis Aloysius. He came back to me and said, Vajira, you are the youngest president in this place, but don't let anybody bully you. You are the president, you make decisions. And so I had a very nice time with the seniors. I was very cooperative, and we had a good time, but I was always the youngest person in any forum in Colombo. Now, when I went back, so that year, 2012 was the 125th anniversary of the SLMA. So we had conferences across the country. I realized after a few months, when I started going around, everywhere I go, I'm the oldest person. The fellows are all very young. Then I came back and I talked with Professor Lalita Mendis, former dean of this faculty, who was also the president of the Sri Lanka Medical Council at that time, and she gave me the database of the Sri Lanka Medical Council. And I looked at that database and looked at the ages of people, did an age analysis. Now when I looked at 1970s, 60s, 70s and early 80s, well, not less than 5% of the doctors in Sri Lanka belong to that group. More than 70% or 75% are graduated after the year 2000. So then I came back and I asked, some of my professors, like Professor Vajira, and then what happened? Where are these doctors? Vajira, none of them are here. Those fellows all, this Silma's time and all that, they didn't want to be in this country. They just, after the finals, they wrote the, UK exams, US exams, and they all went away. So, but when you really reflect on our health system, and if you look at the indicators of or measures of success of health systems, like infant mortality, reduction of infant mortality, maternal mortality, and so on, and prevention of vaccine control for diseases, and all those various indicators, you would realize that it was in the 1960s, 70s and early 80s that we made the most rapid and the best advances. And everything has plateaued. Although we have produced a lot of doctors after the 90s and so on, you go and look at these charts, everything has plateaued. So we have really, of course, we have to really reflect on the fact that although the numbers may not be the only thing that determines the success of health systems. Why I say this is, like, I always believe that it is to the resilience of those who remained in the country, who ran these health services so successfully, and not only ran those health services so successfully, but also created a system of medical education in this country which is on par with any other system in the world, that we are here today and we can stand up and talk. In 2004, I was at a medical conference in Toronto, I was those days researching on genetics of preeclampsia, and I did a paper there, and I went. And I went to a symposium like this. There were a lot of people, all white. I was probably the only, colored person in that audience. And some completely unknown professor got up on stage and started talking about Sri Lanka. How Sri Lanka has improved its, maternal mortality, infant mortality, and all these other stuff. I was sitting there on that audience, feeling very proud. I mean, this completely unknown person from some US or other university in the audience talking about Sri Lanka's health system. Another proud moment was in 2018, at the Health Ministers Conference in Commonwealth Health Ministers Conference in Geneva. I was seated there. There were all the health ministers of Commonwealth were there, including Sri Lanka's health minister. We had the keynote speaker, this lady, I keep on forgetting her name. She's the one who married Nelson Mandela second time. And she was the keynote speaker. She came from this organization called the Elders, which is a powerful organization of people, world leaders and their spouses and so on. In her speech, in about 5 occasions, she said, "Why can't the rest of the Commonwealth be like Sri Lanka?" So, those people who remained in this country and developed the health system brought it to a level where we are world class or beyond world class, and people recognize that. So, I always say when we reflect on what is going on, we can take solace from that fact that those people who will remain here will create a health system or maintain this health system and take it to better levels and make it even more resilient. I think that is my prediction for the future, even though large numbers are leaving. But what is preventing us from focusing on that is the hatred that is kind of portrayed at interpersonal level, at institutional level, at other professional associations levels, as well as at country level, and of course political level, which we don't have to talk about. That is, preventing from us focusing on the positivities of this country and looking at how we go forward. But day in and day out, highlighting the negativities. I have, of course, taken that to an extreme where now I don't read the newspapers, nor look at social media, because that negativity sometimes can consume you and prevent you from focusing on what you're doing. So therefore, we need to start a different dialogue and a debate. That is why, for example, when those few deaths due to adverse drug reactions occurred, and then I found one day our students were standing in front of the Ministry of Health with placards. What would happen if we go down that route? You will never be able to practice in this country, because each time an adverse drug reaction occurred, there will be somebody in front of you saying, hang this person. You need to understand the science of adverse drug reactions. 100,000 people die in USA where there are statistics of adverse drug reactions. I shared that data with the batch reps and said, send it to all the students and tell them we have to have a higher level dialogue in this country which emphasizes the people's sense of duty and service to the country. Take us away from the ordinary dialogue that is out there, which is divisive. We don't want to be divisive. We want to unite people and bring people together. And we need to start focusing on a target. So, my message to all of you is that you need to start a newer dialogue, a newer way of thinking, focusing on the future and what our service and duty is to those people who nurtured us. I know of, don't think of the wider community, but think of your own parents. I know of many parents whose children are all gone, all far away, that parents are suffering. You don't have to think about the wider community, just reflect on your parents. And if you don't have a sense of duty and service to anyone else, you still have a sense of duty and you own a debt of gratitude to your parents. And that should be enough reason for you to remain in this country and serve this country. So that is the message that I had for you, and I'll be happy to take questions. I didn't want to put some statistics here and say people are leaving, this is the number, they are going to increase and so on. We know what is happening. But you need to understand that broader context of what is going on in the world and look at the issues of migration and others in the light of some of these things that I mentioned. And that would require you to just broaden your horizons. Look at what's going on in the world and get a better sense of what is going on in the world. And that is what will hold you steady in the future. Otherwise, you will suffer. I will end this with a story that a priest in London related to me recently. A doctor family migrated to UK. They didn't know what they were getting into. And when they went there, they found it tough going. They found it so tough going that one day they couldn't feed their children. And they had to come to that temple. And the priest fed that entire family. And the doctor told the priest that this is the first proper meal that my entire family had for the entire week. So the greener pasture that people are portraying is not green for a lot of people. But once you've gone there, once you are in that position, you will not be able to say no. Today, I get medical verifications of graduates not coming from hospitals, but care homes and other places. Doctors in our country who could have led a good life are now working as carers in care homes in UK and other places. That's the unfortunate thing, because the people of the country made an investment on these people, expecting that they would serve them as doctors, not as carers in care homes in other parts of the world. And that is the tragedy that is unfolding before us, because we are not having the bigger discussion that we should be having. So with those words, thank you very much for inviting me to share these thoughts with you. I would like to take a few questions if you want to, and answer. If you want to ask me any question, I'll be happy to. This is not, if I were to say a final word, not a problem that will be solved by legislation or regulation. This is a problem that will be solved only by all of us tapping into our deeper conscience and having a different conversation in the kind of along the lines of some of the things that I was telling you today. That is my take on it. And I think that is the way we should move forward. Thank you very much.
Before we wrap up the event, I would like to present the token of appreciation for our
No questions.
Yes, if there are any questions, feel free to ask.
Sir, is there any legal framework in Sri Lanka to allow doctors to practice tourism where they can go and leave and practice somewhere 5 days and they come back and practice?
Those are not regulated. You can't regulate that kind of stuff. People can do and leave. Well, somebody can put leave and go and work somewhere and come back. We know that kind of thing happens. So if you have all that you need is registration here and registration there.
Questions? We still have some time.
Yes, Prof.
Shall I use the mic?
Yes.
Thank you very much, Vajira. I think it was a fantastic presentation. And you brought out certain very important aspects which we don't see in the social media. See, when people migrate, it's not only the economic aspect. You are uprooted from your family. You are uprooted from your social networks. And once you go there, you may have 3 or 4 friends. But just count the number of friends and relatives you have while you are here. And every time you just walk out, you get, "Hi, Machan, go." And some of these friends have been there with you since childhood. You lose all of them. And you have to start building your networks, new networks.
Now I'll relate a personal story on that. 2017, March 21st, I think. I took a flight to London. Direct flight, landed in London. I was very tired, I didn't have dinner. There's this 11-hour flight which takes you at 1 o'clock Colombo. You have lunch in Colombo and you land in London for a dinner. Alright, so I didn't have dinner. I didn't have anything also in the flight. I was doing some work. I went to sleep. I got up at 3 o'clock in the morning, feeling very numb. So I went to the mirror and did a self-neurological examination. Something told me I'm neurologically not correct. And I was okay. Then I did some work on the computer and went back to sleep, got up in the morning. I was okay. Then I went to the Commonwealth Secretariat to do my Commonwealth work. And as I was walking into the Secretariat, I felt numb. I was signing off the attendance register. I couldn't sign. So immediately one of my friends was there. We went to the hospital. You know what the hospital emergency says at St. Thomas's? Waiting time for you to be seen 2.5 hours. So will any doctor in Sri Lanka go to a hospital, or even an ordinary citizen, you go, have a waiting time of 2.5 hours in the emergency? I had to fake or show the urgency of my situation. And then, of course, to cut a long story short, I had a little embolus which went and hit my brain after the, so I was in hospital. But now, I don't think anybody in Sri Lanka has to go to any emergency and wait for 2.5 hours to be seen. So I had to really, emphasize myself and get myself seen by the nurse. So I got myself seen in 10 minutes and then, But although we think these are great places, the service delivery is not that great when it comes to, and I always think, nobody thinks of me as a stroke survivor, right? But I have residual defects, which I know, and I wouldn't have had that if I was in Sri Lanka. I would have got immediately seen, and I would have had, and then, actually it took another couple of hours before I even got a, pill of aspirin. That's, so as you said, the privilege that we have as doctors in this country, the social networks that we have as doctors in this country, you are uprooted completely and you are just another foreigner in a foreign land.
Absolutely. I mean, some of the people who went from Sri Lanka recently, I asked them, see, at this hour they are probably shopping and bringing vegetables in a silly bag to cook, to have dinner. Because you've got to do everything there. There is no way. If you have children, you have to look after the children or have carers. There is no neighbor or someone who is coming to help you. So there are aspects, I think that's what you were trying to, you have to look at this in a more holistic manner. There are so many other factors you've got to think of. Don't be influenced to that extent by a biased social media. And I think one statement you made some time ago, Vajira, still rings, because you mentioned that you've got a situation now where people can pour out the deepest or the nastiest aspects of their character into the social media. You can bring out hatred, you can scold people, you can give biased views, and there's no filter. There's no filter. You've got to filter it. You've got to filter it. So I think, thank you very much once again. Because
I'll relate my silly bag story also.
Yes.
So I went to UK for the first time as a PhD student. So this was after being a doctor here and enjoying the privilege of being a doctor for a long time. So my the first night in UK, so I was now back to being a PhD student. So I went to the supermarket Sainsbury's, which was just 2-3 kilometers from where I was staying, and I did my usual shopping, the way I do in Sri Lanka in the supermarket, and went out with bags full, thinking I'm going to get into my car. And it's only when I came out of the door, I realized my car is in Sri Lanka. Alright. So that was one of the, real, it was a cold, January 29th, you can imagine temperature 5 degrees. And I'm outside of the Sainsbury's full of bags, and it's only when I did that, oh no, car key, car is in Sri Lanka. And then I got into a taxi. But that is the kind of, you're absolutely right. And you have these, situations that you really reflect back on. And then you really wonder what you are, doing. And it's so very important. I think the most important thing to be is rooted in the country, rooted where you are, your obligations, your parents, your society at large. And I don't think anybody who has remained in this country, any professional who has remained in this country has done badly. I always reflect on my parents who were teachers and government servants. Their salaries were what? Not even 1/10 of what we as doctors make. They provided the best for us and gave us the best that the world can give anywhere. And we've survived, and I'm not survived. We have done so well, actually, if you look at it. And I'm sure all of you will do well in life. There's no reason why anyone, I always say, medical students sometimes fail because they have mental health issues. That's the only reason. There's no one else. Similarly, even in life, unless you have mental issues or serious illness, you will do well in life, and there's no reason to drop everything and just disappear. Because there is so much that this country has to offer to all of us, and there is so much that we can offer to this country. And if you're wondering who is in the front row, Dr. Raghunathan was been a very serious physician. I'm sure he will echo. He's someone who came from Jaffna, sir, and you worked all over the country, in the south and all kinds of places. And he was a teacher during the time we were, students here. And we all, there's nothing, I think, when we look back at our careers and where we are and whatever, there's nothing that we regret. There's nothing professional to regret and nothing personal to regret also. Yes?
Thank you very much for that interesting talk. Before I indulge in this talk, first of all, I must tell I am a foreign body, this is uninvited. Saroj has put it somewhere in a social media, not social media, in a professional group. And then I said, he said, for the people who are in the hospital, also are invited. Then I have to defend myself saying, I retired in 2014, and for 9 years, I am 2 days a week, I am taking classes in the board. So I'm still an extended faculty of this side. So I wanted to get a permission to come, and I got it. But after coming here, I wanted to tell you something I have been telling to individual students whom I have taken, to you, senior professor and the dean. I have been to Nimnagar. so many years ago when my daughters were here, and then after a period, this time I was telling nobody invited me. This time they invited me, and I went to Royal College, and I saw the Ninna. The creativity of these people are so much. But you see them in the wards, even now, behaving like Mongols. So there is something happening even in the best of, the best merit students come to Colombo. So something is happening with all respect to all of you. So this is something I wanted to bring. Why is this? Something. Now, take this talk. This talk, of course, you are the dean. They are hard to talk back to you. Right? But do you think all these students are agreeing with all what you said? There are hundreds. If I would tell you, I am going to talk not on behalf of them. I have two idiots who have been made doctors here. One is abroad, one is here, so I am half a 50-50. So I am telling you, this is something, why don't they have the thing to open up and talk something and to develop? 100% because of the clinical society, after coming only, I knew that it's a clinical society and I'm not. Actually, I took a class, I think Professor Ranawaka's son, Sarit was this thing, I took the second lecture here on clinical society when it was originated. So I was thinking, why don't we encourage here in the faculty of talking different views?
Yeah, absolutely. Sir, you are absolutely right. This is again a Sri Lankan trait. Now, if I were to take any one of these students or anybody else for that matter and show them in the morning to the outside and show them the sky and say the sky is blue, isn't it? That person may look at me as if I'm, having something hidden agenda, asking the sky is blue. This is a Sri Lankan trait. So we really need to, absolutely. That is why I was asking you, the questions to begin with. I asked, does anyone of you knows, Vivek Ramaswamy? I mean, you should know, Because these guys can one day be leading the world, right? 37-year-old second generation immigrant in US who is now giving a fight to Trump to come. So, and when you listen to these young people talking, they are challenging everything. So, but we are not, as you said, challenging, getting involved in that discussion. And so, unfortunately, I have to leave now to take my daughter to a tuition class. That is the only duty that I do on Thursday afternoon. So my daughter is doing A-level. So if I don't do this, I won't get dinner today. I would like both of you to continue the conversation in the students. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Vajira. Thanks. But I think the answer to this is the main reason, Vajira, I think it is the staff.
They have something.
Why they don't?
They have something to give me, I think.
Yes.
I'll take it, and then after that. The discussion you cannot record and put anywhere, so you'll have a free discussion. That's what everybody knows.
In order to present the token of appreciation, I would like the patron of Clinical Society, Prof. Sarod sir, to step on stage.
I'm going to put a challenge to the students. We need to change this conversation into kind of dialogue that they have in places like Oxford Union and this Harvard and all that. Did you all listen to the Harvard, I don't know what they call, they questioned the president of Sri Lanka for 1 hour. Have you ever seen, have you all seen that on YouTube? No, go on YouTube. Ranil Wickramasinghe was questioned for 1 hour by Harvard Union. Shall I invite him to come here and you all question? But that is the debate we have to have. If we want to change this country, there's no point us talking. So if the clinical society is willing to take that challenge, I will extend the invitation to him and say, you went before the Harvard Union, you come before the Colombo Medical Union. He will question you. I'm sure he will come. I'm sure he will come. Because these days you may be seeing me, on TV in these meetings, and I'm asking him questions and he replies them and he gives very good answers. So we need to, get these people. Maybe we can even invite the Minister of Health to come, Minister of Education to come. This is the kind of intellectual debate that we need to start. And then the entire country will start changing. So think about it. We'll have a chat.
Thank you once again.
Okay.
Thank you very much, sir, for your time and taking the trouble on speaking on such a timely and relevant topic today. I feel this was a very good perspective and mostly fact-oriented discussion about very timely problems. So I think we will wind up the session for now. Thank you everyone for coming, and we hope to see you in our future events as well. So thank you.